Anyway, listen. Let's talk about the American Sniper movie. Now, is it about an actual American sniper?
Yeah, it's about Chris Kelly, who has the highest confirmed kill count for any American sniper in the history of US military history.
Right.
It is a movie about his time, his service within Iraq during the Second Gulf War. It's a very, very recent story, very recent events, and it is a movie which I have to say here and now, before we get into the finer details of it, is a movie which is causing a great deal of controversy, as much the Chris Kelly person did. It is based upon his life and his time, his service in Iraq, how he came from being effectively a cowboy in many regards to becoming the most prolific sniper in US military history. There is a great deal of controversy surrounding him, in particular his biography that he published a few years ago and some of the things that he has claimed to have done within it. I'm not going to dwell on those because because the nature of this movie is, and it's one of the positives of this movie, is that it's for you to determine whether or not this guy is an American hero or whether he is a villain. Right. The thing that I love about Clint Eastwood as a filmmaker, as a director, is that he's very plain. And I know that sounds like damning with faint praise, but he's someone who looks at the facts of whatever story or whatever movie is, and he presents it in a very frank way, so that we, the audience, can go away from him and say, for example, in this guy wasn't a hero, he's a psychopath, or this guy did what he had to do, or whatever. And part of the controversy has come forward because people don't know exactly how to gauge it. They don't know whether to gauge it as being, as in the case that Seth Rogen said in an interview recently, it felt to him like a piece of propaganda. It felt like the propaganda film for the mini sniper movie within Inglourious Hum Ha Hum Ha Hum.
Yeah.
And some people, of course, are taking to it because of nationalism, about nationalistic rhetoric in America. How you yourself feel towards it, how you see the person, is ultimately what you take from it.
Well, I was going to ask you this because the poster, and I've just got the poster up here on the computer in front of me, it does look very American, very patriotic.
Yeah.
You can see the American flag. You can see the guy wearing his soldier gear, hugging and kissing his girlfriend there. Now, is that kind of what it's all about? Do you think it is propaganda by America? I mean, obviously it's not really going to be that effective propaganda, but do you know what I mean?
Well, once again, it depends on what you yourself take from it. On outward appearances, it is. But like I say, all through every single one of Clint Eastwood's movie, all the way back to Play Misty for me, there's always been a case of, this is it, these are just the facts, it's up to you to determine, in this case with American Sniper, whether this guy is a real American hero, a true patriot, or whether he is a racist, jingoist, bigot, a nasty piece of work. And it's for you to determine it. He is played in this movie by Bradley Cooper, who many people will probably be more familiar with in his comedic roles in The Hangover, and it is truly amazing to see him doing such a movie like this, as it is so radically different to anything that he's done before. I can't say it's a fantastic performance or not, because so much about the character is so insular, about his own internal struggles, both physically and mentally to a degree. He is a character whose father, at an early age, said there are 3 types of people in this world: sheep, wolves, and sheepdogs.
Right.
And instilling a sense of pseudo-justice into him in that regard. It is a remarkable and fascinating movie to watch and to consider. Since watching it, I have been considering where exactly I stand on Chris Kelly as a person, where I consider him in terms of this movie. It is a movie which you have to see to fully engage with and to fully understand, because there is so much going on about it. There is so much controversy surrounding it. It's not a movie that you can just say, well, such and such a person says it's this, that and that, because that simply isn't the case. Yeah. As I said last week, the great thing about art is that it can be interpreted in any number of ways, that you can see it as being X, Y, and Z, or not. And that's one of the positive things about it. This is a very, very unforgiving movie. It is very brutal in its approach and its depiction of war, which may upset some people. Right. The trailer to it that's been going round has been him debating whether or not to shoot a child who may or may not have a grenade on him. And it's that kind of moral dilemma that goes all the way through the movie. So it's a movie which will challenge you on every foreseeable level, And it is a movie that you have to be willing to go to with an open mind in order to enjoy and in order to get anything from it. I enjoyed the movie immensely. It is a movie, of course, when you consider the character, the person he is in reality, and the things, once again, that he has claimed to do and subsequently as a civilian, that makes it difficult in a way to recommend because of where you may personally stand by it. But if you have any interest about it, if you have any intrigue about it, then see it. If you are someone who likes war movies, then you may get some satisfaction in it in a war movie, but it is more than just a war movie. It is more than just a movie set in Iraq, more than just doing what an American sniper would do. There's so much more to it, and it's more the character study than anything else, but one which ultimately regards us, the audience, as the meaning makers, as the people that will go away from this and say, this man is a monster or this man is a hero. And that's what you yourself have to do.
How entertaining is it? Because it sounds like one of those, it's very, much for the stimulus. It's very much for the person who wants to go in there and actually be intellectually probed in the mind.
Well, I can't say this is the kind of movie you could sit back in the same way as... And this may be a horrible comparison, say, the Taken movies.
Right.
You sit down, watch action happen, because it isn't that. It's a very intellectually heavy movie.
You can't laugh at it.
You can't laugh at it, but it is a movie that, to get the fullness out of it, to get effectively your money's worth, you have to sit down and properly watch it. If you're just going to watch it passively, then you're going to miss things, because it's a very subtle, well-nuanced movie, both in terms of the story itself, but also the direction, but also Bradley Cooper's performance within it.
Right, listen, now let's just end on this. Did you think he was a monster, or did you think he was a kind of reasonable guy? Your opinion?
In my personal opinion, it's difficult to honestly say. On the one half, he was somebody who did what he had to do.
Right.
But the way that he went about it and his own personal opinions about the people that he was against, and of course the Iraqi people, is intensely questionable. And of course, some of the things he claims to have done post-Iraq as a civilian really troubles you to a degree that it actually is rather disturbing. It's one of those things that, like I say, it's something I was thinking about during the movie, and I've been thinking about subsequently, and it's something I will go on to think about for many, many years to come. It's nothing so defined as you can say that he is a monster or he's a whatever.
It's a grey area.
It's a very grey area, but it's somewhere. It's an area that needs to be talked about and needs to be debated. It's a movie that you have to see in order to get to it. You can't go off second-hand opinions. You can't go off what I'm saying. You can't have to go off to YouTube or blog or whatever. It's something you need to see for your own personal take on it.
And also, I suppose one good point about the actual movie being made is that you can have a debate.
Yeah,
there's no point shying away from subjects of that nature.
That is the fantastic thing about it. I did read that Steven Spielberg was at one point connected to this movie, and the way that he was going to do it, there was going to be a bit more balance to it in a way. You'd have Chris Kelly, but then you'd also have the Iraqi sniper as well. I can't remember his name, who was also in many ways Kelly's equivalent, and the movie itself would be the battle effectively between those two people, which to a certain degree would have made it a little bit too light in a way. It would lean it a little bit too much towards Kelly possibly being the hero of it all. In this movie, he is there, and whilst it is to a certain degree villainous, the Iraqi sniper, which is one of the downsides to this movie, because it isn't terribly balanced in some regards, in some depictions of the Iraqi populace, but it is a movie which, in its painting of Kelly, is very plain. There are plenty of moments where you'll see him do something for the good of the American people. There are also moments where you see him as a less than nice human being, shall we say.
Yes, definitely. Right, listen, that's the end of our film review. However, you are staying on to do Fact or Fiction.
Yes, I am.
So I'm looking forward to that. We'll have a couple of records in between then. This is David Guerra and Sam Martin with Dangerous. I'm going to play Labyrinth and Shift Key as well really, really soon.